The Gusher in the Gulf. It's exactly 1 year after the Deepwater Horizon rig caught fire and exploded, killing 11 oil workers and fouling the Gulf of Mexico in a way we had not seen before, but apparently not as bad as had been predicted. Now, is this crisis over or not? And if it is, why does the Obama drilling moratorium remain in place as gas prices climb toward all-time record highs? Just some of the questions we'll be examining here this morning off the top. The Budman with you on the 50,000-watt front porch, and we begin with the Gulf oil spill 1 year later as we go live to the Louisiana coast and Fox News reporter Jeff Manasso. Jeff, good morning to you. Thanks for joining me.
You bet. Good to be with you.
What can you tell us there? What is the scene and what is the news?
Well, I can tell you here, the scene is the beaches are open, except for a short piece of beach towards the end of Grand Isle, and but they're empty. There are very few people down here, and normally on a given weekday or a weekend, you'd see hundreds, maybe even thousands of people here on the beach and boats out in the water fishing, but the perception is by tourists, is that these waters aren't safe, that shrimp is not safe to eat, and it's hurting business bad down here.
You talk about the perception, Jeff. What is the reality? As you cast your eyes on those beaches that are open, is there evidence of the oil spill?
There is. There is evidence. You can see a light sheen of oil still in the water. Tar balls are still washing ashore. But that being said, it's much cleaner than what I witnessed last year when you saw that thick sludge, that really goopy oil that was coming ashore. And we've seen crews out on the beach, a handful of crews out on the beach, doing it the old-fashioned way with shovels, digging underneath the sand to get to that oil that's kind of now underneath the sand. It's a long, tedious process and a slow one, and I'm not sure that some of the business owners and homeowners down here that depend on tourism and fishing can sustain this before BP makes a decision on whether or not they can pay these people or not. But for some people, it's a nightmare still.
Well, let me ask you on this, because I'm glad you brought up BP. Obviously, they made a commitment that they would make good on this, and I know they've paid a lot of people in compensation for the damage that was done to their livelihoods, their lives, whatever else that was no fault of their own. But what you're telling me here is there's still a lot of claims that are being contested here and have not been paid?
Yeah, there was about 850,000 claims, and there's only been about 3,000 of those claims paid out, and most of that is really just initial payments to get people through.
Now, are they dragging their feet? I mean, what's going on here? We're talking about a year, Jeff.
Yeah, and the frustration that I can hear from you, it's just magnified by 1,000. Some of these people who really are having to borrow money to keep their restaurants open, and it's a lot of red tape. More times than not, we're talking to people who have had to file and refile and refile and refile paperwork, and there's a lot of red tape involved here, and they keep saying we'll have a decision for you in a couple of weeks, we'll have a decision for you in a month. Granted, there are some claims that probably aren't legitimate, and so the BP Gulf Coast Fund has the responsibility to find those people and to make sure that we don't have to pay these people who don't deserve it. But there are a lot of deserving people that I've talked to that still have yet to hear from the company.
In closing, Jeff, let me ask you this. It's the 1 year anniversary. Will there be any special activities or observances, or is it just another day trying to make life work on the Gulf?
Well, for most along the Gulf, it's just a normal day. But for the family members of the 11 lost on that oil rig, Deepwater Horizon, Transocean, the owner of that rig, that plans to fly the relatives of the 11 dead to the disaster flight. They'll chopper them out, and they'll circle around the site a couple of times, and then they'll return to shore. And then there's a plan for the families to get together to be flown from Louisiana to Houston for a private service today.
Thank you. Fox News reporter Jeff Manasso live from the worst after effects of the Deepwater Horizon rig that exploded a year ago, and 5 million barrels of oil went into the Gulf. From the Louisiana coast, Jeff Manasso, Fox News, thank you so much.
You bet. Good to be with you.
Yep, and you as well. But, you know, as bad as this was, particularly in Louisiana, we had a bit of it for a while, fouling the sugar white beaches of the Florida Panhandle around Pensacola. And we all thought we were in for it. We thought that the loop current was going to drive all of this stuff down through the Keys, up to the East Coast. Remember, everybody was talking about Brevard County getting it, then maybe the Carolinas being clipped, and maybe even up to New York. But the interesting thing is, and this is where I pick up as we continue on BHL, and your calls welcome on the first anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig fire and explosion and resulting largest oil spill in the history of this country, it has not been nearly as bad as all the doomsdayers forecast. Is the oil still lurking out there in the Gulf, or has the environment cleaned it up? And if it is not a threat anymore, which is the government position, how do you justify the ongoing Obama moratorium on offshore drilling? 407-916-5400. Let's talk. 612 real-time traffic and weather together now on the twos. Boy, we're talking about 93 degrees. The sun will be blazing. Boy, that's tough on a paint job, isn't it? Paint doesn't hold up in this climate. And then you have to pay a painter 4 or 5 years after you shelled out thousands of dollars for a paint job. Drives you crazy, and it costs you money, and you're spending money you don't need to spend, and probably, if you're like me, can't afford in this economy. The alternative to paint is what you need. You need a free estimate today. I'll give you the number in a minute for Color Creed, made here in Orlando by this wonderful family-owned business, Color Creed of Central Florida. They've been around a long time. 50 years they've been serving us. They've got the great alternative to paint. It is Color Creed. With every Color Creed job, you get a guarantee of 25 years. It'll be a quarter of a century before you'll have to apply Color Creed again. How many times will you pay a painter in 25 years? 25-year guarantee. Unlike paint with Color Creed, you get a protective barrier against all the wind-driven rain we get, along with a blazing sun. It prevents mildew. It puts a stop to peeling, chalking, and cracking. That's Color Creed. That's not paint. The alternative to paint is Color Creed. Great price, even better now. They've reduced it 10% for you, and they'll give you a free pressure cleaning of your driveway and sidewalks. Can't imagine why you wouldn't call them for a free estimate. I hope you will. You'll love these folks. Jim Dawson and his staff, his family, and his crews are just great citizens, and boy, do they have a product that'll knock your eyes out. It is Color Creed, 407-851-3442, 407-851-3442, the website colorcreedusa.com. Hey, how about lunch today at Houlihan's? 4 convenient locations here in the Orlando area. I've got a recommendation. Maybe you're going to meet somebody coming in from Tampa to Orlando for business. How about the Houlihan's on 192 and Highway 429, a great midway meeting place. And if you work in the research park near UCF, there's a Houlihan's right there on University. You're going to love Houlihan's. Every taste, every price range, all provided for with this amazing menu at the Houlihan's restaurant, where in Houlihan's style they make almost everything they sell from scratch. There's no place like Houlihan's. You're going to love it. Houlihan's for lunch today. Not only 192 in Kissimmee, University Boulevard near UCF, but East Colonial and iDrive online, Houlihans.com. Lunch today. Dinner tonight at Houlihan's. There are some things we know and some things we don't know. 1 year after Deepwater Horizon, we do know, as I told you, that roughly 4.9 million barrels of oil gushed into the Gulf before they were able to cap the well. And those sickening close-up underwater pictures we all saw, I mean, you just had to believe that this was going to be an environmental catastrophe for years without parallel in this country. As bad as it has been, and along the Louisiana coast, Jeff Manasso's report confirms that it's still pretty tough there. That's in the heart of the worst of all of this, and the oil that's in the marshes has really no way to get out. The deep water thing remains a wild card. What happened there? We know we're seeing a lot of dead dolphins wash up, far more than normal, and they say when you see that, the experts say that there are 50 times more of whatever that species is that ever washes ashore that has just died in the deep. Sea turtles dying at higher rates, etc. You know, I mean, I just don't think all of this oil has disappeared. But the government position is the environment has pretty much taken care of it. The microbes have eaten the oil, and the environment just rebounds. It washes itself. It cleans itself. It purges itself. You know, but the wild card is what is really down there. You know, it seems to me, if we can go down and take up-close pictures inside the wreck of the Titanic in 12,000 feet of water or whatever that is, then we ought to be able to go a mile down and shop all over the Gulf of Mexico and find out exactly what's going on there. The official government position is, hey, this stuff is pretty much gone. Oh, tarballs here, tarballs there, and Jeff was talking about that a moment ago. All right, let's accept the official government position. If that's the government position, is it not completely inconsistent with the continuing moratorium on offshore oil exploration slapped on in the wake of the oil spill in the Gulf by President Barack Obama? You can't have it both ways. This crisis is over, and the environment has handled an unimaginable influx of oil gushing from that pipe for months. Let's get back to it. We're heading for $5 a gallon in gasoline in some parts of this country. We're going to be very close to $4 here in Orlando before you know it. We've got ongoing Middle East instability. We're going to be talking about that during the show today. That absolutely plays a role in driving up the price of gasoline. The problem is we're so dependent on the unstable sources in the Middle East because we don't have an energy policy, and because right now we're just pretty much dead in the water. Oh, there are some leases going out there, a few here and there, but basically the Obama administration has used this as an excuse to drive its anti-fossil fuel alternative energy policy, and we're not ready for alternative energy. We need oil. We need gas. And if the government is saying this is gone pretty much in the Gulf, let's get back to it. Why is that not happening? 407-916-5400. I'll tell you what the shrimpers have to say in a moment, and they're telling a different story. 407-916-5400. 622 on BHL, real-time traffic and weather together on the twos. Courtney, thanks. Sunny and a blazer today. Hot and humid with a high of 93, 70 degrees in Orlando. Some of the shrimpers say, you know, this rosy picture being painted by the government that basically the oil spill has all just dispersed and dissolved. They says that's not really what's going on. Remember, if you're a shrimper, you are dealing with creatures that live on the bottom, crawl along the bottom. They are bottom feeders, okay? So the shrimpers ought to know this. And one of the top executives with the Louisiana Shrimp Association says the oil is still there. Even though the government says the oil has been dispersed and degraded, he says it's there. How are they going to clean it up? Because they don't know where it's at. They won't go out there and actually find it. When you tell them where it's at, you don't hear anything back. Yeah, I can't understand. I can't get to the bottom of what the mystery is a year later that we can't seem to solve. This oil is not on another planet. It's in the Gulf of Mexico. We can take photos of the Titanic on the bottom of the North Atlantic. We ought to be able to get out there, go all over the place with these little submarines and determine exactly what's going on. I don't understand why there's still a mystery. I'm not clear what the motivation is here. But one thing that is very, very clear to me, if the government's position is that the oil is all but gone, then let's get back working on domestic energy supplies, fossil fuel, drilling for oil, natural gas, etc. You cannot use the Deepwater Horizon as an excuse forever, Mr. Obama. Okay? An absolute worst-case scenario has been handled with, relatively speaking, minimal damage compared to what could have happened. And it was a fluke. Oil drilling has shown to be extraordinarily safe, and we've learned things from Deepwater Horizon that further minimizes the possibility of a repeat. Could happen, yes, but it is no reason not to go on with your life. We need nuclear power despite what's happened in Japan, because nuclear power is safe. What do? Stop airline travel because a plane very occasionally goes down? Of course not. Of course not. In no small part, in the Budman's view, the ongoing moratorium on drilling offshore and drilling just about everywhere else, including the coast of Florida, is basically driven by Obama politics. By his whole global warming, get us off fossil fuel, get us on clean energy, alternative energy, which is not ready. It's all driven. What's going on in the Gulf a year later the continuing moratorium on drilling, which is crippling the economy there and crippling our ability to get off the tap in the Middle East. It's all Obama administration policies. It really, really is. Well, by the way, among the Obama administration policies we're going to put the spotlight on here this morning is the free spending ways of this liberal president. It has led us to a $14 trillion national debt and a shot across the bow by Standard & Poor's this week, this U.S.-based financial services company that's been around since the Civil War, and it publishes financial research and analysis on stocks and bonds. And Standard & Poor's has cut the outlook on the U.S. long-term rating from stable to negative for the first time since Pearl Harbor in 1941, because they don't think we're going to be able to get our act together politically and put policies in place that deal with the debt. Wow. The ramifications of that are enormous. There's politics in here, too, and we'll talk about all of that 1 hour from now when Fox News business analyst Gary Kaltbaum, who is a local guy here in Orlando, joins the Budman on the Standard & Poor's story and what it means for this country's future and for every single one of us. Much to come. Right now, a news update with Michelle, followed immediately by the daily Wall Street Journal report coming up on 628. It's Wednesday on BHL.
John, technician from Stanford Auto Glass. My last customer was a busy mom with lots to do until she noticed a big crack in her windshield. She didn't want to drive with her baby in her car, so she stepped it online at SafeLight.com. Learn what makes replacing a windshield easier. Plus, she learned how SafeLight emails a photo of the technician, so she knew who was coming to her house and how soon. Call 1-800-800-2727 or go to SafeLight.com.
You know what excites the Budman? Success stories on the Medifast weight control program. Folks who followed in the footsteps of the incredible shrinking Budman and know my story, how the Medifast plan took 75 pounds off me in 6 months. This healthy plan, the weight comes flying off. It's all been developed by doctors, recommended by 20,000 physicians in the last 20 years, so you know it is safe and you know it is healthy. And my doctor recommends it as well. I mean, 75 pounds in 6 months, 11.5 pounds in the first 2 weeks. Some of you have done even better than I've done. Some of you have lost twice as much weight, and you've lost it even faster. The possibilities at your Medifast Center are amazing, and the help from your Medifast counselor, I simply cannot overstate how important that is to this great program. At your Medifast Center, you can lose up to 2 to 5 pounds a week, up to 2 to 5 pounds a week. And now is the time to get on this, because if you call Medifast now, you'll receive 35 meals free with a purchase of a full program at your local Medifast Center. 3 centers in the area, new ones in Lake Mary and Winter Park. You can lose up to 2 to 5 pounds a week. Online, you can learn more at MedifastFlorida.com, but I want you to call right now. Your Medifast Center, you can do this. It's 1-888-9-MEDIFAST, 1-888-9-MEDIFAST, 1-888-9-MEDIFAST.
There are some people out there who like things tough, like wrestling an angry cat in submission or cut your face off, or playing a spooky with treehouse for the kids. The following message is not for them. This is all about easy, as in growing grass with Scott's Easy Seed. Easy Seed is the amazing goof-proof way to grow grass that will thrive in tough southern conditions. Harsh sun, high traffic, just about anywhere. It'll even spread to repair thin and bare spots. That's because Easy Seed is everything you need to grow grass successfully. It's a special mix of Scott's premium grass seed, starter fertilizer, and super absorbent growing material that expands to protect the seed and keep it moist. Just spread it, wet it, and watch it grow. You give it sunshine and water, and Scott's guarantees it'll grow, especially in those tough spots. That's the Scott's advantage. So get Scott's Easy Seed today. And for you folks who like things tough, this just might change your mind. Visit ScottsEasySeed.com for $5 off your next purchase of Scott's Easy Seed. There's nothing good about fire ants. They don't pollinate your roses. They don't make cute little sounds when they rub their legs together. All they do is build a big mound in your yard and bite the hell out of anyone who gets near it. That's their sole contribution to mankind. And that's why they have to die. It's that simple. You cannot rehabilitate a fire ant. You have to kill him. His little red friends and that big fat queen down there making more fire ants. What you need is orphan traffic back into the mound. And here's the really good part. Everybody dies, even the queen. Now that's a rush. Ortho Fire Killer from Ortho, guaranteed to kick fire ant butt. Ortho, defend what's yours. Ortho Fire Ant Killer is one of the essentials for your southern lot. For more must-have products, visit ortho.com/essentials. This is Franco Ferrarios, the Business Advisor Show. Have you been let go from your job or forced into early retirement? CRA Sunbelt is looking to hire and train 20 new business brokers. If you'd like to learn more about an exciting career in business brokerage, call me today at 407-682-9600. No experience necessary. Our specialized training program will put you on the road to financial success. CRA Sunbelt, the place to go to buy or sell a business. 407-682-9600. Scientific Advice continues with news from the Fox Orlando News Center on 540 WFLA.
It's 6:30. I'm Michelle Marilla, 540 WFLA News. Marion County Sheriff's deputies have arrested 6 people overnight. They say plotted and carried out a brutal murder of a 15-year-old. Seth Jackson was called to a home by a text message he thought was from an 18-year-old girl he knew. Investigators say there were 6 people waiting at the home for him when he got there. They beat him, shot him a number of times. He survived the attack and tried to get away, and that's when investigators say they dragged him back inside, killed him, and set him on fire. The arrested suspects range in age from 15 to 37 years old. Capitol Hill lawmakers nearing a critical vote on how much the government can borrow. Jared Halper reports from Washington.
By next month, the Treasury Department expects the government to reach to more than $14 trillion debt ceiling. And that means the need for Congress to greenlight even more debt. I don't want to call the question, but basically, Ryan is an assets America. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner warns if the debt limit isn't raised, the U.S. would default on loans, scaring off would-be domestic and foreign investors. Many Republicans have signaled opposition to allowing for any more U.S. borrowing unless it's coupled with long-term deficit reductions.
A thrill-park proposed for the northern part of Orlando's I-Drive tourist corridor has been scuttled by the city's municipal planning board. Board members said they've been concerned about noise that could be generated from the planned park on I-Drive near Festival Bay Mall. It was intended to have more than a dozen roller coasters and other high-adrenaline attractions. The park would have also been near a relatively quiet
About 2 minutes here.
Tangela Park. A showdown looming in the state capitol over the right to carry guns in full public view. It may sound like a contradiction in terms, but Senator Greg Evers is sponsoring a bill that would allow people with a concealed weapons permit to carry them out in the open.
Residents of the state of Florida with a concealed weapons permit just went through the classes and did all of the process that they have to do in order to receive the concealed weapons permit to actually have their gun open and not be prosecuted for raising a firearm.
Evers says people with concealed carry permits have been arrested simply because a gust of wind made their weapons visible. He said it's not about turning Florida into a modern-day Dodge City, but his bill will give nearly 1 million Floridians the right to pack heat in public. In sports, the Magic beat the Atlanta Hawks 88-82 to tie up the first-round playoff series at a game apiece. 540 WFLA News Time, 6:32. I'm Michelle Marilla. Get these stories and more at 540WFLA.com. Coming up, more BHL.
From the David Moss Volkswagen Lee Road Traffic Center, seeing a good ride so far this morning as you make your way out along I-4. No accidents or delays. Still moving up to speed in both directions between the Attractions and Deltona areas. The 408 is also in good shape, and we're problem-free in both directions of 528 this morning. The Turnpike checks and clear. It's a standard 10 to 13 minutes between State Road 50 and I-4. If you do happen to see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
Traffic on Air Online, a service of the Florida Lottery. Wish you had $700,000? The new Lucky 7 raffle from the Florida Lottery may grant it to you. There are over 777 cash prizes, but do not delay. Tickets are limited and the drawing is May 5th. So acquire your Lucky 7 raffle ticket today because time is running out.
From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, we pick up right where we left off yesterday. A warm and muggy start. 93 the forecast high for today, and we can't rule out a stray late-day thunderstorm. Late-day thunderstorms again tomorrow. Weather updated around the clock on 540 WFLA. I'm David Maddox at the Weather Channel.
Thanks for being the smartest audience in talk radio.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
BHL returns now on 540 WFLA.
And we all get a little smarter every time we catch up with the Wall Street Journal, the best newspaper in America, with our morning Wall Street Journal report. Same time, Monday through Friday on BHL, with the editor of the Wall Street Journal Radio Network, our buddy Mike Salvatorelli. Good morning to you, Mike. Very interesting. The housing crisis here in Florida, among the worst in the country. And the housing crisis the Journal is reporting has a new focal point, and Florida's in on this as apartment buildings are going into foreclosure in alarming numbers.
That's right. Right now, the apartment building you're living in may be in foreclosure. Last year, Fannie Mae acquired more than double the amount of foreclosed multifamily properties compared to 2009, and nearly 500 properties had homeowners that were seriously delinquent. Florida, as you said, Arizona, Georgia, and Ohio too represent more than a third of Fannie's seriously delinquent loans, and more than a third of Fannie's loan losses last year came from those purchased in 2007. You know, that's when property values really peaked. Owners, bottom line, don't want to continue paying mortgage money for an apartment building if its value is going to decline.
Boy, that's pretty scary for the renters out there, you know. And I really appreciate the update from the Wall Street Journal. Folks will want to read that article in detail. And also, school budgets being cut back. Big story, big topic for us here on Bud Hedinger Live in Florida. There's a very interesting and smart idea to help out the very smartest of students in these tough times.
That's right. Advanced placement classes have been booming as the high school students and parents aim to get an edge in the college admissions race, and recently trimmed tuition costs too. A record 2 million high schoolers are expected to take those AP exams next month, and that's up 159% from 11 years ago. The courses, though, can be expensive. Now, for students in districts facing budget cuts, as you had mentioned, online courses are becoming an increasingly popular option. After completing the course, students take the AP exam in schools like other students. While only about 0.5% of AP classes are taken online, virtual courses are becoming available through online schools in 27 states. Of course, Florida, too, at the Florida Virtual School in, of all places, Orlando.
Absolutely right. Yep, they're offering those AP courses. And finally, we got a minute to go here, Mike. Wall Street Journal is going to the dogs. Mutts. Mutts are going upscale, you're reporting. We're now talking hybrid pooches.
Yes, but don't call them mutts. They're golden doodles, cockatoos, and puggles, and they're among the most popular crossbred dogs, of course.
Yo, back up a little bit, buddy. What's a puggle? What's a puggle?
That's puggle. A puggle is basically it's a poodle, and let me see.
It's a beagle, isn't it, or something?
Beagle and a poodle.
So when love blooms between a beagle and a poodle, you get a puggle? Okay.
There are other examples too, like a cocker spaniel and poodle mix. That's a cockapoo. A schnauzer and poodle, schnoodle. An Australian shepherd poodle mix, Aussie poo. Now, here's a question: what's a Moravian onyx hybrid called?
I have no clue.
A moron. I'm only kidding. That was
That's the Wall Street Journal report. Mike, I'll catch you tomorrow morning, same time. Okay. Mike Salvatorelli, good guy, great newspaper, great having him as our partners here on Bud Hedinger Live with the Wall Street Journal Report. Online edition, WSJ.com. You can't do better. The situation in the Middle East, we're going to get an update because it all ties back into here. You're not hearing as much about the situation in Libya right now, the struggle with the rebels who are trying to take out Gaddafi. The U.S. has pulled its warplanes out of the NATO coalition on this, but the unrest continues. And in a number of countries, there are important things happening. And it is, in no small part, the instability in the Middle East that seems to have no end to it, and goodness knows where it's all leading, which is driving up the oil prices, resulting in the spiking gas prices that are now over $3.80 a gallon here and across the country. The all-time high was $4.11 a gallon in July of 2008. So we may be headed soon into uncharted territory with enormous ramifications, not only for our individual pocketbooks, but for the entire U.S. economy and this half-hearted recovery that we are seeing under the Obama regime. And the president is saying, well, it's all speculators who are driving up the price because they are betting that things are going to get worse in the Middle East, so they bid up the futures on oil. Okay, but it's much more complicated than that. We need to know what's going on not only in Libya, We need to know what is going on in other potential hotspots there. Saudi Arabia, particularly, they seem to be keeping a lid on the protests and the unrest there. And the problem is they're the biggest individual nation over there in terms of its oil reserves. And if we all of a sudden were to lose access to Saudi Arabian oil, we would be in a huge world of hurt, in part because it all ties back here. It all ties together the fact that the Obama administration has no energy policy. And they continue to have this ridiculous moratorium on drilling in so many places, particularly off the coast of the Gulf in the wake of the Deepwater Horizon 1 year ago. So what is going on in the Middle East is so critically important. And Syria, right next door to Israel right now, they're reportedly going to lift these emergency measures that have been in place for the last 40 years. Assad is trying to cling to power there, and Israel on this Holy Week casts a wary eye throughout the Middle East, particularly toward Iran. And we're going to get up to date on all of it with the best in the business. Our friend Courtney Keeley from Fox News, live out of Jerusalem on the Middle East as we continue. Don't miss it. 6:42 on BHL.
From the David Moss Volkswagen Lee Road Traffic Center, seeing a good ride so far this morning as you make your way out along I-4. No accidents or delays. Still moving up to speed in both directions between the Attractions A and Deltona areas. The 408 is also in good shape, and we're problem-free in both directions of 528 this morning. The Turnpike checks and clear. It's the standard 10 to 13 minutes between State Road 50 and I-4. If you do happen to see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, we pick up right where we left off yesterday. A warm and muggy start. 93 the forecast high for today, and we can't rule out a stray late-day thunderstorm. Late-day thunderstorms again tomorrow. Weather updated around the clock on 540 WFLA. I'm David Maddox at the Weather Channel.
And we're looking at sunny, hot, and humid today, as we say, with a high of 93 degrees. Wow. I'll tell you, my jet black beauty, that RL from Acura, Fountain Acura, their top-of-the-line sedan, is sitting out in the parking lot looking like it's going 1,000 miles an hour while it's standing still. Great styling, great luxury, high performance. Man, does this thing take corners without ever leaning. And it's got some giddy-up, too. You got to love the Acura RL. Go test drive the Budman's Acura RL at Fountain Acura, where, along with their top-of-the-line SUV, the MDX, they have amazing financing rates at Fountain for well-qualified buyers like you, as low as 0.9% on the new ones. Wow. If you're already driving an Acura, you know how incredible they are. You know they're as good and even better than I say. You can upgrade your current Acura model at Fountain to a similar brand-new 2011 Acura model with no money down and a similar monthly payment. Go check it all out at Fountain Acura, South OBT, just south of the Florida Mall. The website, fountainacura.com.
Traffic on air online is service of Allstate. April showers can bring wet roads and more accidents. So before you get behind the wheel, put yourself in good hands. Call a local agent, 888-ALLSTATE, or visit allstate.com. Dollar for dollar, nobody protects you like Allstate. Mortgage rates are as low as 3%, 3.2% APR. Go to lendingtree.com today, where refinance customers save an average of $293 a month or more. Click or call 1-800-555-TREE to find out how much you can save today. That's 1-800-555-TREE.
You get up early. You work late. Weekends off? Not likely. Why? Because as a small business owner, it's more than your job. It's what you love. And you need technology that keeps pace with your passion. That's why Verizon delivers all the wireless solutions you need to make sure your business rules. Verizon technology gives you the power to enable growth and boost productivity. Because only Verizon offers an arsenal of advanced devices, powerful business apps, and mobile security safeguards, all backed by unrivaled customer support and the fastest, most advanced 4G network in America. More small businesses choose Verizon Wireless than any other wireless carrier because they know the small business with the best technology rules. Now get the lightning fast Thunderbolt by HTC for only $249.99. No rebate required. Exclusively at Verizon. Visit any Verizon store, verizonwireless.com/smallbusiness, or call 1-800-BZW-4BIZ. Requires new tier activation and data pack. Early termination and other fees apply. Preference results based on third-party study.
Hey, Dr. Ken Cronhouse at Lake Cardiology. He is the home of the pioneering breakthrough in heart scans, the Bud Scan technology. He had this CT coronary angiography medical miracle before anybody else, and the finest heart imaging available anywhere in Central Florida is available where it all began, here at Lake Cardiology, home of the one and only Dr. K, my heart doctor. Now, I'm not the only one who thinks they're as good as it gets. So does the commission that sets the standard for quality care in heart CT scanning. It's called ICACTL, and they have made Lake Cardiology, home of Dr. Cronhouse, the first and only medical facility anywhere in Central Florida that they accredit for CT scanning of the heart. It's your heart, it's your life. You want the very best of care. You want the cutting-edge technology. It all comes together at Lake Cardiology, home of Dr. Cronhouse. Don't fool around. Check out this Bud Scan. It saved my life, revealing things no other heart test had and for which I had no symptoms at all. And the Bud Scan saves lives every day. But it can't help you unless you get on the phone and ask about the Bud Scan at Lake Cardiology. They'll take it from there. They'll tell you everything. Here it is. 352-735-1400. The number to Lake Cardiology, 352-735-1400. Please call them today. More on the website, keyword Bud Scan.
We serve both sides of the breakfast menu, but recommend what's on the right. BHL continues on 540 WFLA.
As promised, live to Jerusalem for an update on what's happening in the Middle East with Fox News reporter Courtney Keeley. Courtney, welcome back to Bud Hedinger Live. Thanks for the connection this morning.
Always a pleasure.
What can you tell us from Israel today?
Well, it is the Passover holiday here in Israel, and it's also Holy Week. So here in Israel, we're seeing just a lot of pilgrims coming from all over the world, going to holy sites, and it's pretty quiet because of Passover. The surrounding Middle East still on fire. Protests raging in Syria, raging in Yemen, with both leaders of those countries refusing to step down. And then we've got the ongoing problem in North Africa and Libya as well.
Let's focus on the situation in Syria. Assad, I would have thought, would have been able to tamp down these protests by lifting these emergency measures that have been in place for the last 40 years, but not so, huh?
Well, it was a little tricky the way he did it. The emergency measures have been in place since 1963, and it was you can't gather a crowd, you can't protest. If you look like you're a threat to security, you could be thrown in jail. Basically, state television, state news agency Sana yesterday said they'd repeal the emergency law, but Bashar al-Assad hasn't signed the legislation, nor did they give a date when that would actually happen, and they immediately put in another law about protests and gatherings that outlawed that. So it was, giving with one hand, taking with the other, or not even really giving with one hand, and it just seems like it wasn't nearly enough to appease the protesters, because as we've seen, the momentum always builds. The more these security forces crack down on their people, kill them and their funerals, the more the fury builds in the streets, and the more people are willing to go out to risk their lives for what they want.
We only have about 3 more minutes. Let's wheel around the Middle East pretty quickly, if we can, country by country. Saudi Arabia, of course, we're so dependent on their oil, and so is so much of the world. What's going on there?
Well, it's relatively quiet there, but don't forget their forces, part of the Gulf Cooperation Council's forces, are still in Bahrain, which is right next to them, that tiny kingdom. The Bahrain foreign minister is saying they will stay until they get rid of this, quote, Iranian threat. They're trying to blame the Shiite majority, who's still asking for freedoms and asking for human rights and asking for the monarchy to step down. They're trying to blame it on Iran and cleave that schism, and Saudi forces have used violence and deadly violence against protesters, and it's putting America in a very hypocritical position.
Very interesting, and it's so important, Bahrain, of course, because it's the home of our fleet there. Now, let's talk about the situation in Iran. I know from your vantage point in Israel, they continue to cast a very wary eye toward that regime.
Certainly do. The centrifuges of the nuclear program had been broken by Stuxnet computer virus. It's unclear if they've gotten any better, and their nuclear program has gotten faster. They've been drowned out by issues going on in the Middle East. But don't forget, Syria is very close to Iran. Iran will be watching very closely what happens in Syria. Syria uses both Hamas and Hezbollah as proxy militias against Israel, so it's all intertwined.
We have about a minute left. Courtney Keeley from Fox News in Jerusalem. The situation in Libya, stalemate between the Gaddafi forces and the rebels still continuing, or are you seeing an advantage one side versus the other?
Still a stalemate, still a siege on Misrata. Gaddafi's still saying, not going. The Libyan foreign minister saying if there was a ceasefire, maybe they could negotiate his gradual step down with elections. The opposition said no go until he goes. And British military officials arriving in Benghazi, the first sign of mission creep. They are not foot soldiers, but they are there to advise the rebel fighters.
And no sign that the United States is going to send its warplanes into action again with a NATO coalition?
No, but we've got Senator McCain pushing for military intervention and other senators pushing back, saying no way.
Courtney Keeley reporting from Jerusalem, and I wish you a good Holy Week there, and I wish the people of Israel well, and we always appreciate your updates. You are, as I'd say, and it's just flat true, the very best in the business, and we thank you so much for updating us on the situation throughout the Middle East this morning, Courtney.
That just makes my day. Thank you so much.
God bless and take care.
Thank you.
Coming up on 6:52 here on BHL, this crackpot preacher from Gainesville, Terry Jones, the Koran burner, he's headed for the biggest mosque in America in Dearborn, Michigan. We're going to start talking about this in a minute because he plans a protest there Friday. And the folks in Dearborn are doing some things that really concern me. Okay? I don't like Terry Jones. But I don't like what's going on in Dearborn, and that's where we begin in 1 minute. Stay with me on this. You don't want to miss it. We need to talk. It is 6:52 on BHL. How about an update now on real-time traffic and weather together on the twos?
From the David Moss Volkswagen Lee Road Traffic Center, continue to see a quiet ride so far this morning in both directions of I-4, just slowly starting to build that morning volume westbound at 436. The 408 is in good shape between the Greenway and I-4, and no delays in either direction of 528 between I-4 and the coast. Form problem-free in both directions of the Turnpike, and checking clear along the Greenway as well. If you do happen to see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
All right, Courtney, thank you. A sunny, blazing hot and humid day with a high of 93. A little early for that, isn't it, on the 20th of April? But ready or not, here it comes. 70 degrees here in Orlando on a beautiful, beautiful morning. You know, I don't like burning books of any kind. This burning of the Koran that inflamed the Islamic world by Terry Jones from this Dove World Outreach Center, this teeny little church in Gainesville. The guy continues to get a disproportionate amount of attention, and he's about to get some here, and I hate to do it because that's what he really, really wants, I think, more than anything else. But we need to talk about what is about to happen here. He has a fundamental First Amendment right as an American to protest. And he is headed up with a couple of other folks from his church, and there aren't a whole lot left in this church, to Dearborn, Michigan, which is home to the biggest mosque in America and one of the very biggest Muslim populations you will find anywhere in this country. Dearborn, Michigan, Ford country, once upon a time. And they're telling him up there that he has to post a peace bond to cover the costs of police security for his demonstration at the mosque. They're also telling him he's got to go over to some protest area, that he can't demonstrate at the mosque. Jones has heard that this peace bond is $100,000. And he says he's not paying it, and he plans to protest, at least for a portion of the time he's there, right outside the largest mosque in America. And they're trying to shut him down. A Detroit prosecutor has filed a petition in district court to stop Terry Jones from holding that rally outside the big mosque. And a hearing on this comes down in a courtroom in Dearborn tomorrow. Now, Terry Jones is saying what's absolutely true, as despicable as I think he is in so many ways. And believe me, I'm not an apologist for radical Islam. You understand that if you listen to this program. You know, This is a cancer. This is a scourge of the world. And I get on all the other Muslims who aren't a part of the radical Islamic movement here for just basically sitting silent and doing nothing to cut the cancer out of their own religion. But the situation up there is posing a fundamental First Amendment threat to Terry Jones's right as an American to protest. And Jones is angry about it. He says he's not going to be confined to free speech zones. He thinks it's totally unconstitutional, and he's absolutely right. They're trying to shut him down because they're afraid of violence. But even the mayor of Dearborn understands the freedoms we enjoy as Americans. And he says, you know, the fact of the matter is that you can only act after or at the time that someone begins to do something illegal. You cannot act against them before they do something illegal. And the mayor of Dearborn has got it right. Jones wants to go up there and protest the rise of Sharia law on this Good Friday. I would wish, as a quote-unquote Christian preacher and quote-unquote man of God, I don't know whether he is or not, but he is a preacher, I wish on Good Friday he'd be home feeding what remains of his flock, lifting up the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, instead of going up to Dearborn to protest outside that mosque. And God knows what will happen. When he burned a Koran recently, a whole bunch of people died over in Afghanistan. That's not Terry Jones's fault, my friend. That's an outrageous reaction from fanatics, the radicals in Islam. They shouldn't react that way. You burn a Bible, do people die? No. You burn a Koran, people die. There's something fundamentally wrong there. Both are considered holy books for their religions. So it just shows you how violence is woven in to the radical end of the Muslim faith. That's not Terry Jones's fault. And you can't shut him down in Dearborn because you think something violent might happen. Now, Terry Jones says he is going up there completely in peace, but he will be packing heat. He has a concealed weapons permit, and he wants everybody to know he's going to have a gun with him when he's up there. Now, I freely admit that the stage is set for something that could get really ugly. But I don't think it will get ugly at the hands of Terry Jones. I think it will get ugly if it does because of the radicals in that mosque. And if it's the largest mosque in America, you have to believe that a certain percentage of them have a very radical view, and they can completely, through their interpretation of the Koran, justify acts of violence, particularly against infidels. And I understand the concerns in Dearborn, Michigan officially. But you cannot deny Terry Jones the right to protest at that mosque just because you think something might happen. We have a First Amendment, and it is maybe the most cherished, foundational cornerstone of America. So I support Terry Jones in that regard, even though I have very, very little respect for this guy, and I believe he's just a huge publicity hound. That's how I see what may be unfolding this Good Friday in Dearborn, Michigan. And I want to know how you feel. That's where we start our second hour here on BHL. Stay with me, 407-916-5400. Now at 7 o'clock, the news update with Michelle.
540 WFLA. Local news from the Fox Orlando News Center.
spill since we watched in horror as an explosion aboard the Deepwater Horizon oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico led to that massive oil spill in the Gulf, spilling an estimated 206 million gallons of oil into the water over 3 months. So what was the impact of that spill in the Gulf? It's partially undecided, according to USF researcher Frank Mueller-Carter, who also says there are a lot of unknowns about the impact of the spill.
We still don't understand exactly where the oil went, at what time, and at which rates. And that is unfortunately something that I don't think we will be able to reconstruct completely.
He says the scientific community still doesn't have enough funding from BP and the government to conduct all this research that's necessary. In Orlando, a couple behind bars for a money-making scam involving baseball cards. The FBI arrested Jesus Gill and Vivian Gargala yesterday. Now, they say the couple had a great scam going across the state. They'd go into a store, purchase some cheap baseball cards, go home, copy the UPC codes, and put them on more expensive cards in the stores and purchase those. Then they'd go through the pack, sell off the valuable cards, some worth hundreds of dollars, pack up the rest, refill the packages, and return them to the store. They were caught in Brevard County as they were continuing the scam. NASA managers say that last Friday in April is a good day to launch Shuttle Endeavour. Bill Gerstenmaier, the head of NASA Space Operations, says they reached that conclusion after giving everything a hard look yesterday.
We set Friday, April 29th at 3:47 p.m. as our launch time for the mission. We had a very extensive review, thorough review.
Endeavour was cleared for its final scheduled mission at the conclusion of a flight readiness review. While the mission is set to last for 2 weeks, NASA managers say they fully expect to be able to add 2 more days to it. That would happen after the shuttle docks with the International Space Station. 540 WFLA News Time, 7:02. I'm Michelle Marino. Get these stories and more at 540WFLA.com. Sports is coming up.
From the David Moss Volkswagen Lee Road Traffic Center, continue to see a quiet ride so far this morning in both directions of I-4, just slowly starting to build that morning volume westbound at 436. The 408 is in good shape between the Greenway and I-4, and no delays in either direction of 528 between I-4 and the coast. More problem-free in both directions of the Turnpike, and checking clear along the Greenway as well. If you do happen to see a problem on the roadways, call our tip line at 866-676-8477. From the Traffic Center, I'm Courtney Bright.
Traffic on Air Online, a service of Sears. At Sears Auto Center, April is National Car Care Month, and we want to make sure your car is ready for spring. So come in any weekday for a free multi-point inspection. For great deals, visit SearsAuto.com.
Social Security claim, visit forthepeople.com. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
From 540 WFLA, Orlando's 24-hour weather channel, we pick up right where we left off yesterday. A warm and muggy start. 93 the forecast high for today, and we can't rule out a stray late-day thunderstorm. Late-day thunderstorms again tomorrow. Weather updated around the clock on 540 WFLA. I'm David Maddox at the Weather Channel.
Score with 540 WFLA Sports.
Magic center Dwight Howard dominated the Hawks for a second straight game and showed he is in peak condition to boot. Howard played every second of last night's 88-82 win that tied the first-round playoff series at 1-1. Howard had 33 points and 19 rebounds and wouldn't come out of the game, even though Coach Stan Van Gundy tried to get him out.
A couple of times I asked him. I did. He can verify that. We asked him 3 or 4 times. You know, you want a couple minutes here, and no, I'm good. You know. And he was good.
The Magic trailed by 10 in the second quarter, went ahead by 12 in the fourth quarter, but couldn't relax until Jason Richardson hit a big three with 1:08 left. Game 3 of the series against the Hawks will be played Friday night in Atlanta.
A dominating kind of a performance. Everything was working.
Tampa Bay manager Joe Madden referring to James Shields' complete Game 4 hitter in last night's 2-1 Rays win over the White Sox at the Trop. Shields walked just 1 batter and struck out 9. Josh Johnson was no slouch either. The Marlins right-hander allowed 2 hits in 7 innings. He struck out 9 and hit a 2-run single as Florida blanked Pittsburgh 6-0. Johnson off to a 3-0 start. That's your sports update. I'm Tom Workin on your Gator Nation station, 540 WFLA.
BHL. Wake up and stand up. for what's right. 540 WFLA presents the 50,000-watt front porch. And another hour of Bud Hediger Live.
Good Wednesday morning. We're glad you're here. Where God and country are honored and old-fashioned American values never go out of style. The Bud Man with Jenna and Jeff with you until 9 o'clock. One after another, the hottest topics in talk radio, and we've got some stem winders coming up. This Good Friday,